Hi, I'm Melissa Muir. In this video, I'm going to show you the differences between the various presses that are offered through Potter USA. He currently has 4 of them, and they each do some things a little differently. So let's take a look at those and see which ones will fit your needs best. Now the first press is the newest one. This is a pancake die cutting press. It is only an 8-ton press. It's tiny, weighs maybe 15 pounds with the jack inside of it. Very, very small. It is made for the sole purpose of cutting out shapes using pancake dies. The opening in here is really only about 1.5 inches once you start to get into the top of the spacer to the bottom of the top platen here. To use this, you simply just place your pancake die, center the cutting portion inside of the opening there, pump this up, and then you'll just pump this up until you pop out your piece, and you'll be able to hear when it kind of pops through, just like that. So sometimes it does take a little bit more pressure on your part because it is a lighter jack. So you saw that I used the extension handle there. Pull my piece out. You can see that it's now in here, and all I have to do is just pop this out. So I've actually had a lot of people ask me if you can use a silhouette die inside of this machine, and that's what we use to do our forming or puffing. And yeah, you can, but you probably won't get quite the results that you're after. I'm going to remove my little spacer here. The spacer is so that when you're using the pancake dies, you actually clear the thickness of these nuts that are holding things into place. So what I'm going to do is just center this inside of my die or my press opening. I'm going to place the urethane on top of this. Now, you will not be able to use a contained urethane system in this just because it is such a narrow opening. Alright, so I've given it a fair amount of pressure, probably only about 1,500 pounds of pressure, if that. So not much. I would need to anneal this and give it another pressing if I wanted a nice deep impression. But you will see I was able to get at least a shallow impression. And this might be enough for some of your pieces, but again, I would probably want it a little deeper, so I would need to anneal this and come back and do this again. In this case, I used a piece of 22 gauge annealed copper. One other thing to note about the small press is that no matter what you do with this, in order for it to actually function, it needs to be secured to a tabletop somehow. And in this case, because I travel with this and move it around a lot, I just clamp it on with a large C-clamp. Now the next press that we have from Potter USA is the medium-sized press. This was also originally known as a bolt-together press, and that is the press that I currently have, is the bolt-together. He now offers these with a fully welded frame and also powder coating, so you can have this in any number of colors as well. It does use a 20-ton jack. This is a shorty jack or a short profile jack. This one I happened to pick up from Harbor Freight. Now because the frame is smaller, it does necessitate a couple of differences. For instance, this jack sits in here sideways, so that when I go to raise and lower this ram, it's here actually on the front of this rather than off to the side. So it does take a little bit of extra fitting to get that in there. So something to consider. The other big item of this one is that it has a smaller opening here. It's just as tall from the top platen to the bottom platen. However, because the opening is smaller, you have to make some allowances for different things. For instance, I happen to have bought some urethane, 6-inch urethane from Bonnie Doon, and you'll notice that it does not fit into this. So if I were to buy the medium and I were to buy other accessories for different presses, there may need to be some allowances made, and I would need to cut this down in order to use that effectively. Also, if I'm going to cut bracelets and anything that's a little larger, you will want to invest in some extender platens, and that allows me to put into this a bracelet blank die, and then I would be able to fully support and give that pressure throughout the entire piece rather than just the narrow pieces that you would normally have with a small shape pancake die. And again, it's nice because you can still do almost everything that you can with the larger frame presses. It just happens to be a little smaller. It's also much easier to move because the weight on it, you don't have as much metal here. So I think total, even with the jack, we might be looking at 65 pounds. So the next press in the lineup is a full-sized model. It's got a very large frame. The opening can actually be quite large from top to bottom. Mine is not quite as open as it could be, and that is because I have a taller profile jack in this particular press here. So I do have plenty of room, as you can see, from side to side. We have a nice 8 inches to work with as far as my opening here goes. And then you will also notice that I have a stack of spacers. I use spacers as much as possible whenever possible, and that makes it so that I don't have to use so much arm power raising and lowering this platen as I'm doing different items or different techniques inside of this. Another thing that Kevin has come out with are these magnetic platens. So when you get your press, it will actually have a magnetic top platen, and he now provides them in a little larger space. So my original platen was only like 5 by 5, and so now we actually have a good size large platen. And again, these spacers can be picked up at any of your scrap metal places. These are just aluminum, 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick, and then I have some that are even deeper. So again, almost anything can be used as a spacer, and it just makes it so that I don't have to spend quite as much time bringing things up and down as I go through that. Now the last model available is an electric press, and it uses the exact same frame as the manual one. And the thing that's really nice about that is that it's upgradable. So let's say that you buy the manual press, you do whatever you can do for a little while, and you decide, oh, I really want that electric pump, then you can always purchase that. Now mine is one of the original electric presses. So mine is actually very large and very noisy. He has worked on this and has made these pumps so they're half as big, they're a lot smaller, they're also made out of different materials now, which makes them much lighter. And the thing that's really nice about this is that all I have to do is turn this on, raise it up, or lower it down, and it will do the work for me. Now you heard this, there's a bypass that's built into this. So when I go all the way up to the top, it will only go to 20 tons. And when I come all the way down, it will stop applying pressure there as well. So it's a very safe system. And again, something that's kind of nice. So those are the differences between the 4 presses. And I hope that that kind of helps. And if you have more questions, please feel free to leave a comment on this video, or you can always send me an email at melissa@melissamuir.com, and I would be happy to answer any questions.